Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. Today we're bringing you on location to behold two signature spring events in the Green Mountain State. In a few minutes, we'll travel up to Willoughby Falls in Orleans to visit one of Vermont's premier wildlife watches. First, we want to remind you that the Vermont Maple Festival kicks off tomorrow in St. Albans. The festival runs Friday through Sunday. You can check out the Sappy Art Show, a photography contest, a youth talent show, and, of course, a maple cooking contest. Visit their website for a complete list of events going on throughout the weekend. Speaking of contests, one of the sweetest jobs at the festival is being a judge for the Maple Syrup and Products Contest. Last year, Ben Willis spent time with a team of judges who have to taste all the maple. As you'll learn, it takes more than just a sweet tooth to judge maple syrup, and cookies, and cream, and candy, and sugar. Here's Ben.
On this day, I'm behind the scenes at the Vermont Maple Festival to learn to identify those subtle and not so subtle differences between the flavor of great maple syrup and what some call off flavors that can arise from small issues during production.
Ooh. That's musty, moldy.
Can we drink moldy syrup?
Yeah.
All right.
305 is
Mark Isselhart, UVM Extension's maple specialist, is dedicated to helping Vermont sugar makers make the best maple syrup possible. And what better way to achieve this than here, where hundreds of maple producers, big and small, have submitted entries for judging.
Pure maple syrup is judged on 4 standards: color, clarity, flavor, and density. If for some reason it doesn't meet the standard, too dark, has an off flavor, it's too thin or too thick, it would be rejected. And then the ones that remain will be judged, and the best ones, largely on flavor at that point, will get the best in class. All the best in class samples will go head to head and get best in show.
The judging begins with color. Each entry may be submitted into one of 3 color categories: golden, amber, or dark. The judges use both high-tech gadgets and old-fashioned eyeballing to determine if each entry meets the standard.
Now you can see this one here was almost the same as golden. This one is clearly lighter than golden. That's what we're looking for.
Then the judges move on to clarity. Each sample has to be clear to the naked eye.
Like maple syrup that isn't filtered enough will be cloudy.
Okay.
Like if it comes off the evaporator when you boil it, and you just put it in a glass, you won't be able to see through it. It'll be too cloudy.
Okay.
So maple syrup can't be sold that's cloudy. Like state law.
Wow. I love it. Next is density, one of the most technical categories. Here, both new and old school tech is used side by side.
This is called a refractometer. It measures the way in which light transfers through a liquid. And so we put a little sample in. Underneath this cover, there's a beam of light. So we put a little bit of sample in there, close the cover. It would give you a percent.
It's same thing what he's doing, but rather than a digital readout, it's you look through here and you'll see a series of numbers with a dark line across, and that way you can know what the density is. Fairly quick way to do it.
Some standards are very quantitative, so we can use an instrument to measure them, and some are more subjective. They're based more on your experience and the standards of what people expect. So flavor would be the one. We don't have a tool to measure flavor.
And so the category we've been waiting for has finally arrived: flavor. This is where technical wizardry is left behind. A good palate is an essential skill for any maple judge. When it comes to years honing their taste buds, few have more experience than Henry Marcus.
It's interesting to do, and it's hard to explain, but almost each sample has a little tone to it that is different. It's a good idea to smell it first. Sometimes that can save your stomach a lot of issues. Look at it, smell it, try it, taste it. See if there's any odd flavors or if it is typical for the grade. And this is golden, so you want a light, delicate flavor with this.
When the maple syrup doesn't taste quite right, the judges call that an off flavor.
I think it's got like a Tootsie Roll flavor. So that's usually like an off flavor, yeah. Not great. Yeah, I would reject that one.
Some defects are more common than others. The most common ones are buddy, which is falls into a group of off flavors we call Mother Nature off flavors. So it's not something the sugar maker did necessarily wrong. It has something to do with the physiology of the tree, the chemistry of the sap has changed. Something has conspired to make that batch of syrup not taste the way it should. And no fault of the sugar maker other than they have to identify every batch and make sure it meets the standard. And so presumably some will sneak through in the contest. You taste it, say, okay, this doesn't meet the standard, and here's our best guess why.
While some off flavors are caused by Mother Nature, others are the responsibility of the sugar maker. So the judge's assessment can help sugar makers further perfect their technique.
There are many things that can cause an off flavor in syrup. Sometimes if it's a backyard sugar maker and they're doing it over an open fire, it gets a smoky flavor. Sometimes they use too much defoamer, which is like a vegetable fat to keep the foam down so it doesn't come over the evaporator. And you can tell that when you taste it, it coats the roof of your mouth, kind of like a wax, and it has this fatty taste to it.
I finally had my chance to be a maple judge when Henry invited me to try one of the off flavors to see if I could detect the subtle variation in taste.
Okay.
Now, smell it first and then taste it.
So maybe.
It's a good lesson in life too. Always smell
Okay.
before you taste.
Okay, and then try.
You may love it.
I know you're having me try this because I'm supposed to notice something about it, but it just tastes delicious to me. So what is it?
That's musty, moldy.
Can we drink moldy syrup?
Yep.
All right.
You weren't going nowhere tonight, were you?
Mark Isselhart has created an off-flavor test kit to help sugar makers develop a common vocabulary to better name defects and share information.
So I developed a kit of standards that are a sense of what the flavor for these more common ones would be. So we have one for buddy, we have one for sour, there's a few others, and it's meant to give producers something to taste and say, well, we call that flavor off late season, and we call it, well, that's buddy, or that one tastes like wood. It's trying to get to a standard set of language about what these things are so they can avoid mistakes in the future.
Mark allowed me to try a few samples from his off-flavor test kit.
It tastes like a Tootsie Roll. That I got. Got sour sap here.
All I can say is the flavors were distinctive.
Ooh.
Any disqualified entry receives a note explaining what was wrong, which unlocks a trove of possibilities for a sugar maker to pursue.
We have these nice little postcards that are included to tell the producer a little bit more of what went wrong, instead of just giving them a big reject stamp. We don't like to do that. I think the producers want to learn from this. That's why they bring them in. They all want to get the large ribbon, but at the same time, they want to know how they're grading their syrup is the right way.
As I leave, the judges still have many more bottles to taste, but I head out with thoughts of furthering my studies over a stack of waffles drenched in 100% pure Vermont maple syrup. In St. Albans, I'm Ben Willis with Across the Fence.
Thanks, Ben. Next up is a fence favorite from Keith Silva, who visited Willoughby Falls a few years ago to get the jump on a fishtail. According to the Vermont Department of Fish and Wildlife, Steelhead Rainbow Trout have started their upstream migration. The falls becomes a staircase in April and early May as the fish jump out of the water, making their way up the rocky crags of the Willoughby River in a spectacular display of determination to get to their spawning grounds. This event is something to see, but as we learn, it requires a bit of luck as you're going to catch this fish out of water story.
The Willoughby River runs through the village of Orleans, and also it flows into the Barton River. The Barton River flows out to Lake Memphremagog. In Lake Memphremagog, we have lots of different fish species, but one of them that is really kind of unique is what we call Steelhead Rainbow Trout. When the conditions are right, you'll see them jumping out of the water. It gets anglers excited, but anybody, even if they don't fish, likes seeing these big, beautiful fish jump out of the water. It's a chance for people that aren't normally fishing to actually see a fish, and a big one at that. When the water is high enough and when maybe the water's a little bit colder, they can actually swim up through and you would never see them. But it's only when the flows are at just the right level and the water temperature is warm enough for them to have enough energy and strength to actually jump out of the water that you'll actually see them. We have many different species of fish in Vermont, some that are native, some that are introduced. Some of them are more tolerant to poor habitat or pollution, that kind of thing. These steelhead rainbow trout, the fact that these fish are there surviving, reproducing on their own is an indication that we have good water quality. The water's clean enough to support these fish, to support their entire life cycle from eggs to the juveniles and then out to the lake. So the fact that these fish can complete their entire life cycle in the Lake Memphremagog system and its tributaries indicates that we have good water quality and good habitat, which should matter to everybody, because if we've got these species surviving and thriving, that means that conditions are good for the entire ecosystem, including us.
That's cool. We got about 5.
Yeah, you think so? You got about 5?
Yeah.
What's the best way to see these fish, and what's your tips for seeing fish jumping, Judd?
Best time to go is usually going to be around late April, maybe into early May. You have to do one of two things. You have to get lucky and be there at the right time, or you have to put your time in, because sometimes you just go there multiple times and eventually you get it. Because these fish, they need the right conditions in order to jump, it can be hit or miss. But on a really good day, you might see over 10 fish jump in an hour.
That takes care of Fence for today. My thanks to everyone working behind the scenes here at WCAX who makes this program possible. I'm Jolie Whitney. Have a good one.